Alright, let's get cleaning. My name's Greg, you're watching How to Play Paintball. Okay, so now that I am back from Chicago, it's good just to go through and clean everything. So I wanted to go through, I know I had done a video before on this, but I wanted to go through and kind of revisit that on how to actually clean a paintball gun. So every gun, just kind of a caveat before we get started, every gun is going to be a little bit different on how to clean. Any spool valve type gun is going to be how I'm showing you now, which most guns have gone over to that. But if you shoot like an Ego or even like a Spider or something like that, where it's that stack tube design, it's going to be a little bit different, but a lot of the same principles are going to apply. But what I wanted to do is go through and explain exactly how to clean out your marker, so that way everything is running smoothly. This is one of my pet peeves, because this is something that you can control. If you have a teammate that their gun keeps breaking, whatever, and you ask, well, when's the last time you cleaned it, and they can't tell you. I mean, ultimately, it's just one of those things that this is in your control. You can't control the refs. You can't control how the other team is going to play. You can control your gun working. So it's kind of like making sure that you're oiling or putting new oil in your car, things like that. Yeah, so I'm rambling. I'm going to get into how to actually clean your marker. Okay, so of course, first and foremost, you're going to need your marker. You want to have the recommended lubricant by the manufacturers. Usually spool valve guns are going to want a Dow 33 or something equivalent to that, so that's what I have here. You are going to want to have your Allen keys just in case. You also want to have isopropyl alcohol. This is going to be helping you with cleaning stuff off, and if you have to get into the circuit board, I'll get into that more. And then, of course, some paper towels. I'll get into this in a second. All right, so first and foremost, it's always good just to check the battery. So this way, you can check the battery, make sure that it's good. If you need to swap it out, you can go ahead and do that. All this cosmetic stuff I can clean off later. I'm really going to be focusing on the bolt, but it's always good that you can check the eyes. So I put my finger down into the breech, and once it recognizes that there is something there, I know that I don't need to clean this. If I needed to, then I would get my correct Allen key, unscrew the eye cover, take that out, clean it off. This is where the isopropyl alcohol comes in. That way you can put a little bit on a Q-tip, or you could put it on the paper towel, stick it down in there, clean it, and then put it all back together. Just do everything in reverse. Again, I'm going to focus more on the bolt in this, but I just like to check that. And if it's good, it's no reason in messing with it, basically. I mean, if you wanted to, you could, clean out a little bit inside here, but for the most part, I am clean, so I don't have to worry about that. Like I said, the cosmetic stuff, like some of the paint that I have in here, I can clean that off later. So we'll turn the gun off. And then we are going to get into the bolt system. So however it is that they say to take the bolt out, that's what you want to do. For the MacDev primes, you just pop off that back cap and slide it back out. If you wanted to, you could look inside there. If there's any grime or anything like that, you could stick a paper towel down in there, clean it out. But right now, I just need to set this off to the side. So now we have the bolt system. So again, every manufacturer, how you clean it is going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, it's going to be the same. So I'm going to get a paper towel here. You can clean off any of the old lube. So wipe all that off. And then we're going to unscrew the can from the actual bolt guide there, and then push down. Now, sometimes there's like an O-ring. I think on the die ones you need to remove, there's an O-ring here. I believe with Planet Eclipse and obviously with MacDev, you just push the bolt down and it kind of slides out like that. So you just want to wipe off all the old lube. So get it all cleaned out. Get the bolts. And this is when you can kind of check to see, is there any, like chewed up O-rings or anything like that. Like these are all looking good, so we don't need to swap any out. And also if there's a leak, that's when you're going to be able to see what O-ring it is that you need to swap out. So again, just wiping off all the old lube, because you don't want to have any of the old stuff on there. And you also, if there's any dirt or anything like that, you don't want it to be on the bolt system. You want it just to be as clean as possible. Okay, and then next, just do everything in reverse. Now the way that I like to clean my bolt is you just get a little bit. Now with any spool valve gun, it's going to be like this, where you don't need to use a whole lot of lube. Basically, you just need to get it where the bolt looks wet. So I might have used a little bit more than I needed to, but let's see if we can get that in the camera. So kind of make sure that those channels are kind of filled, but the bolt looks wet. That's really all you need. Now, you might want to put a little bit extra on like these kinds of O-rings. These are not moving, so it's not necessary to do that, but I just like to have that so that it slips on, that there isn't anything catching that might rip an O-ring. So now that that part is good, we'll take our bolt, slide it over the bolt guide, and same thing. Get a little bit of lube. And I like to add a little bit extra to here to help with lubing the inside of that bolt O-ring. So we can see here the bolt looks wet, or the O-rings look wet, and that's what you want to be going for. And then what I like to do is just add a little bit extra, go like that, so that way you can get a little bit extra there, and then kind of spin, so that way the inside, see if I can get it to focus for you. It doesn't look like it's gonna, there we go. So the inside has some extra lube in there, and then slide it over and tighten it. Now you want it to be kind of hand tight with the primes. I'm sure it's probably going to be the same with other organizations, but that's what you want to have. Then extra lube, if you want to put a little bit extra, this is just to help with sliding the O-rings, or I'm sorry, the bolt back into the gun itself. Now, like I said, with the die ones, there's an O-ring there. So the primes have this little, let's get it to focus for you, have this little bolt tip, so there isn't an O-ring there, but sometimes with other companies there is an O-ring around there. So you might want to put a little bit of lube on there, and then that way, so you can see how that one's still a little bit glossy. That way it's just less friction in the actual breech itself when you have the bolt firing back and forth. But for like die and all that, you want to make sure that that tip is back on there, or else it's going to have some issues. Okay, so now we have all of that clean. We'll grab our marker again and slide it back in. And now is for the other test. So I'm going to close this back up. So a huge thank you to Mark 'Em All Paintball, because I didn't have any air. So for me to test out my gun and make sure that everything is working, you need to have your air. You want to make sure that you have a tank with at least like 1,000 PSI. You don't need a whole lot because you just need to cycle it. But you're basically just listening for leaks. But Mark 'Em All down here in Winter Haven let me stop by to fill up my tank, because when you travel, you need to take your reg off, like in a video before we had seen. So that reg wasn't on there, so that makes it difficult to put air on there. But what we're going to do is going to go ahead and screw in your tank. And once that's screwed in, this is where, again, make sure that you don't have a ball in there to double check before you air anything up. But that's where this piece comes in. So MacDev actually makes this silencer. And the whole point is for when you are teching your gun, you screw this on, and it's going to work with any autococker threaded marker. So we're going to air it up, and I don't hear any leaks. So what you do is turn on your gun, turn the eyes off, and you're going to shoot. And it's a lot quieter. Now this is, I just want to let you hear the difference. So that's without it. It might not have even registered on the mic. It actually might have topped out the mic. So you can hear the difference there. So this way, you can cycle it, make sure that after you cycle it, if there's lube that kind of moves around, it doesn't leak anything. But this way, you can kind of listen to it. Now really be careful when you're listening that your finger is not near the trigger, because if you have your ear next to the marker itself and you shoot, it's going to be really loud. So I don't want you blowing out any eardrums or anything like that. But it looks like we are good here, so we're going to degas the marker. There's always one more shot. We'll go ahead and take off the tank. We can take off our little silencer. You can actually get these on the website. I think they're like $20 or $25. And actually one of the techs said that his son will be sleeping and he can actually use this, and it doesn't wake him up. So it's a good thing to have, especially if you have roommates or whatever, or even if you have kids and you don't want to wake them up, but you want to make sure that everything is working fine. Or actually, this is going to be good for me to bring to hotels, so that way I don't scare people when I'm testing everything out to make sure it works. All right, and the last thing that you'll do after, of course, taking or turning off the gun, get another paper towel, and this is where you get a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. And the reason why you want to use this is that it dries very quickly, so you're not going to be messing anything up, but this is where you can clean off any gunk that may be on there. Okay, so there might be some pieces that I had missed, but I don't want this video to be 20 minutes long, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And the reg we can get to in another video. So the regulator is going to be very similar to how you clean out the bolt system, but the reg is something that you don't need to clean as often. So you maybe basically when you're shooting over the chrono, if it starts getting really inconsistent, that's when you want to clean this out. You don't need to clean this every single time that you play. The bolt system you are going to want to clean a lot more often. All right, guys, so that's it. It's very simple. I actually really like that MacDev did simplify the bolt design, so that makes it a lot simpler. But yeah, so again, a huge thank you to To Play Paintball for letting me run in and get some more air in my tank, because my reg was off, because you can't fly, check into your bag with your tank reg still on your tank. They have to be able to check inside to make sure there's no explosives and things like that. So yeah, so thank you to them for that. Thanks to MacDev, and thank you to everyone that entered the contest. Also, huge congratulations to our 10,000 subscriber winner. So congrats, your stuff is going to be on the way very soon. And for those that didn't get a chance or didn't enter in time, there's going to definitely be some in the future, so make sure that you stay tuned. But thank you guys again. We're over 10,000 subscribers. That's crazy. So thank you again so much for that. And what's some other stuff that you guys would like to see? Put it down in the comments down below. What's something that you might want some help with? Maybe a tech tip or a playing tip, things like that. I try to keep a running list of everything so that way I'm ready so that I can help you guys out. So thanks again, and as always, remember, watch, learn, win. Thanks.